I know I didn't kill the plants. Why would I? Why would I? How are we doing today? Good? Good? All right, so it is, so just as Johnny said, right, last week we talked about input, and today we're going to be talking about output, all right? And so if you were not a part of midweek last week, that's all right. I'll give you kind of a quick refresher on what we talked about. But if you're confused on what's in front of us right now, we have Shaquille O'Neal, who is right It's kind of dying, looking a little rough. And we got LeBron, who is obviously glowing. Am I right? Am I right? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go, right? All right, stop. All right, so, if you were not here, last week we talked about input, all right? And we talked about the main theme that we kind of talked about around Psalms chapter 1 was that what we are taking in, it should be glorifying God, right? What we take in should be glorifying to God. Whether that's the thing we watch, whether that's the things we listen to, whether that's the friends or relationships that we are in or around, right? What we take in into our hearts, into our minds, into our lives should glorify God. And it was also just surrounded around like what we take in matters, right? It matters a lot, and we're going to see that in the output part today, right? We're going to see why it matters so much, because I promise you, what we take in does matter. Remember my illustration kind of about Hey Arnold, and how there was the bully whose name is Helga, and how me and my sister watched it just so much, and then we started to be like the bully Helga, and then our parents banned us from watching that show, right? We took the input in, we watched the show, we took that in, and then our output was, oh, I'm going to go ahead and be mean just like this girl in the show, all right? So that's kind of the input and the output part. So before we go ahead and get into the output part and get into the passage, I want to go ahead and define what output is. Now, this is the definition that'll help us better understand output between what we are talking about today. All right, so here is the good definition for us. It is, output is whatever comes out of you that reveals what is in your heart. All right, so that is the definition that helps us understand output today. Is output is whatever comes out of you that reveals what is in your heart. All right, and now that we know what that means, we can go ahead and dive into the passage. So we will be in Matthew chapter 12, verse 33 to 37. So it is a smaller one, but we'll go ahead and just get into it, and then we'll talk about it more, and hopefully we'll be able to apply that to our lives and better help understand. So if you want to follow along the screen, it is on the screen for us. And it starts here in verse 33. Either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad. For the tree is known by its fruit. You brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. The good person out of his good treasure brings forth good, and the evil person out of his evil treasure brings forth evil. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word that they speak. For by the words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. All right, so there's a lot here. It's cold in here. There's a lot here, right? But let's. Sorry, I totally got us off topic, right? There's a lot here, but let's kind of break this down. And but first we need to figure out who is talking, who is being talked to, like who is hearing this, and what has happened before this, right? We need context of what is going on. So to give you that context, right, this is Jesus who is talking, right? And Jesus is talking to the Pharisees. Now, of course, there's other people that are going to be hearing this, but he is mainly talking to the Pharisees. And so why is he talking to the Pharisees, you may ask? Well, it's because there's something that happened before this confrontation with the Pharisees that made Jesus say these things, right? And so what kind of happened before that was that, so there was a blind, mute, and demon-possessed man, right? And so he was blind, mute, demon-possessed, and some people brought him to Jesus because Jesus was, he's the ultimate healer. So obviously they're going to bring him to Jesus for him to hopefully heal him. And guess what? Jesus does heal him. Jesus heals the blind and mute guy, and as well as the demon goes away. And here's what happens that kind of makes Jesus say what he says in verse 33 is that the Pharisees are there, and the Pharisees see that Jesus healed this man, right? And all the other people are saying, they're thinking about, is this Jesus guy actually the son of David? Is this Jesus guy actually the Messiah? Is this Jesus guy actually the guy that he says he is, right? Is he actually the Son of God? Now the Pharisees, they do not believe that Jesus is the Son of God, right? They do not believe that he is the Messiah, and they judge him, and they follow him around, try to make him mess up and do all these things and confront him about different things and ask him different questions and everything like that. So the Pharisees see that what the people are saying, and then they see, they see him heal this guy. And so what they say is that they tell Jesus and they tell the people around him that the power that he is using to heal is the power of Satan. That's what they say. The power that he is using to heal is the power of Satan, right? So that is the words that is coming out of their mouth. Obviously, we know that, no, that is not it, right? Jesus is fully man, fully God, so he uses the power of God to heal others, right? He's Jesus, the ultimate healer. He does not use the power of Satan. And that was just a thing that they said to try and get people to think that, oh yeah, he's not the son of David. Yeah, he's not the guy that he says he is. And that is where we get where he talks about fruit, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and read each verse and kind of break that down for you guys so we can better understand it, right? Now that we know the context. So verse 33 says, either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad. For the tree is known by its fruit, right? So what is Jesus trying to say here? Well, if you have a good tree, right? Say you have a good tree, what is it going to produce? Good fruit, right? It's going to produce good fruit, obviously, because it's a good tree, therefore we get good fruit. What about a bad tree? What does a bad tree produce? Bad fruit. Bananas are good. I don't know what you're saying, right? A bad tree will produce bad fruit, right? So what is he trying to say right this, right? He's saying, oh, here. First of all, we can see through this, this is a nice apple tree, right? Does anybody have an apple tree in their yard or anything like that? No, you do? That's actually pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That is a pear tree? Do pears grow in Ohio? I didn't know that. All right, so this looks like a good, healthy tree, right? And we see it has good fruit. So what can we say about this tree? That it is a good tree, right? But then what about we say about this one? Ooh. Yeah, this is not a good looking, they ain't some good apples. Who's eating those apples? Nobody, right? So what can we see from this? We see there are bad apples, so what can we take away from this? That this is a bad tree, right? So good tree, good fruit. Bad tree, bad fruit, right? That is what Jesus is trying to get at right here. And then we can also go to verse 34 and 35, right? It says, you brood of vipers, how can you speak good when you are evil? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? So he's talking to the Pharisees here, and he says, how can you be good? How are you trying to be good? How are you trying to follow the law when you are evil? Right? When you are evil, when you have evil in your heart, right? Because what they said was evil, therefore their hearts itself is evil, right? That is what Jesus claims. That was Jesus trying to get at, right? And in verse 35, it says, the good person out of his good treasures bring forth good, and the evil person out of his evil treasures brings forth evil, right? For, the Pharisees, they have evil in their heart. Right? And Jesus is saying that, and because they have evil in their heart, they are claiming evil things. And that's what they claimed, is that he was using the power to heal people as the power of Satan, right? That's what he was trying to get at. And that's what Jesus is saying, no, that's not right, right? That's not right. For the abundance of the heart, right, the mouth speaks. For the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. What we can get from this is what is in your heart will come out from your words, right? Will come out from your actions. The things that are in your heart will slowly come out. And what will that happen? Through your words, through your actions, through your attitude, right? If you have hate in your heart, what is going to happen? You're going to be hateful towards people. Maybe you're going to have hateful thoughts. If you're angry, what is going to happen? You're going to say things that, are angry, or be angry, just with your emotions, right? If you are prideful in your heart, what is that going to show? You're going to be prideful in the things that you say and prideful in the things that you do, right? Your actions will be prideful. If you are jealous in your heart, what is that going to do? That is going to make your actions with jealousy, right? The things you say, the things you think, right? It all starts with what is in your heart, right? It all starts with what is in your heart. And then we can finish with verse 36 and 37, and it says this. Oh, I went too far. It says this. I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. So for every careless word, right, every careless word they speak. What is Jesus trying to say here? It's pretty much everything that we say, every careless word, everything that we say, we will be justified by. That will take into account when we be judged, right? God will take that to account, every single word that we say, right? So the small things matter, right? The jokes that we say, right, with our friends in our little friend group matter, right? The things that we say to the person behind their back matters. The things that we say when nobody is around, it matters, right? The things that we say, the words that we use matter. Why? Why do the words that we use matter? Well, it's because what comes out of your mouth reveals what's inside of your heart. What comes out of your mouth reveals what is inside of your heart. Right? Jesus said it in verse 33, right? Either make the tree good and its fruit good, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad. Whatever is in your heart will come out in words, in actions, right? If you have a heart that is anger, hatred in your heart, that is going to come out in hatred towards other people. Hatred maybe towards yourself, right? It'll come out in those words, right? It's the input and the output. What you are taking into your heart matters because it will be producing the output. The people that you are around, what are you taking in from them, and what is the output that you are giving out, right? Because it matters. What comes out of your mouth reveals what is inside of your heart. Think about LeBron and Shaq, right? So if you weren't here last week, what we did was we gave both of them two different things, right? And so we gave LeBron, we gave him water, right? And look at him, he's looking perfect as always, right? And then we see Shaq, who is not looking good at all, right? It's a little bit of weed killer in Shaq. That's okay, right? But here's the thing, right? LeBron took in something that he was supposed to take. That grass needs water, grass needs sunlight, grass needs to be in the right environment. And Shaq did not take something that he needed to take in, and therefore, he's going slowly dying, slowly withering. All right, and so what is happening here? Well, if you don't know how plants work, right? Plants have roots, right? And whatever, is in, like the liquid or something, it'll soak up with the roots, and therefore it'll put into the plant, something like that, right? And so what is going on here is that the grass, LeBron took the water and is growing, right? And then Shaq took the poison and it's dying, right? It's actually kind of sad. Shaq's not actually dying. I hope not, but we'll see. I like Shaq a lot, right? But here's the thing I'm trying to get at. Here's the thing I'm trying to get at. What we take in matters because it will show. What we take in matters, and this is a prime example of it. Shaq took in something that was not good for him, and look, it is showing. And LeBron took in something that was good for him, and it is showing. And here's the thing. What are you taking into your heart, and what are you giving out? What is your output to the input, right? What is your input, and then what are you giving out? What is that output, right? And it starts at the input, right? It starts at the input. What we put into our hearts will show through our words and through our actions. And that is important. What we put into our hearts will show through our words and through our actions, right? Your input determines your output. Am I already there? Your input determines your output. And we have to be able to discern if what we are taking in our hearts is healthy or not, right? Because if it is not, our output won't be healthy. Our output will not be good. Like, how are we gonna live for Jesus if we are taking in the things that Jesus knows we shouldn't be? Right? Our output should be producing good things. And we have to be able to discern if it is healthy or not, right? And how can we speak good if our hearts are evil? Right? Think back to the Pharisees. Their hearts were evil. They were speaking evil. How can we speak good? How can we speak good into people's life? How can we be that good example if what we're taking in is not glorifying God? Right? How can we do that? We can't. We can't, right? Our outputs should glorify God, right? Because if our inputs glorify God, that means our output should hopefully glorify God. What we are taking in matters, and then it transforms into what we are putting out, right? Our outputs should glorify God because of our inputs, right? Inputs and outputs, and that's why we are doing this series, and that's why it's so important, right? We need to realize that what we take in our daily lives matter. They really do, right? Because whatever we are taking in our daily lives, whether it's the relationships, friends, right, the things that we watch, the people that we are around, it will produce an output because you are taking all that in, right? It's important. It is really important, right? And so here's what I want to give you. And here's the things that I want to give you to hopefully better ourselves when it comes to the things that we struggle with when it comes to input and output. Right? The first is check your heart daily. Right? Check your heart daily. Right? Is what you are putting into your heart, the input, is what you are putting into your heart producing good things, or is it not? Right? Is what you are putting into your heart producing good things, or is it producing bad things? Because then you have to stop and think about, well, what am I putting into my heart that is doing that? Maybe it's friends, right? Well, then you got to think, well, are these friends that I'm with, are the things that we are doing actually glorifying to God? These things you are watching, are the things that you're watching actually glorifying to God? Right? Because it all matters. Is what you are putting into your heart producing good things? Because if it's doing the opposite, then you need to do a heart check, right? And do that heart check daily, right? If you are saying bad things or doing bad things, right, figure out what is that I'm doing, right? Who am I with that is influencing me to do that? And last but not least, get an accountability partner, right? So I have an accountability partner. His name's Josh, and he's super cool. Me and him meet every third month at Bob Evans, right? And so get some pancakes and it's good, right? But what happens is I talk to him about the things that I'm struggling with, and then he also talks to me about the things that he struggles with. And then from that, what do? We hold each other accountable to our actions and to the things that we are doing, right? And so he holds me accountable to the sins that I struggle with, and I hold him accountable for the sins that he struggles with. And we're open and we're vulnerable with each other. And then from there, hopefully from there, we are growing, not just in friendship, but also growing our relationship with God as well, right? So get yourself somebody that can hold you accountable for the things that you watch or that you listen to. Hold you accountable to those things so you can produce good fruit, so you can produce good things through your heart, right? So if that's a friend or maybe even a mentor, right? Get somebody that can hold you accountable for the things that we struggle with, because we're not going to be able to do it alone. We're not, right? So it's very important, right? Input and output. What we are putting into our heart matters because it will produce the output. And so we should be putting things into our hearts that glorify God, so then the things that output should be glorifying God as well. Let me pray for you guys. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just want to pray and just thank you for, thank you for this time that we can be in your word and learn more about you. Lord, if I'm being so honest, it's so difficult, especially in our world today, to not take in the things that are bad for us, right? Because everyone around us does it. So Lord, I pray that we can be able to discern what we take in, and then through that we can take in things that glorify you, and then help us produce that output that glorifies you as well. Lord, we love you so much, and I pray that we can just keep growing in our relationship with you. Lord, I just thank you for everything that you've done for us. In your name I pray, amen.